Welcome, I'm Deb Shepard. I'm your host of Spirited Straight Talk. Thank you for joining me on this amazing spiritual journey that we call life. You're in the right place and you didn't land here by accident. My intention is to help you learn to free yourself of things that are holding you back and create a life that truly makes your soul happy. I'll be talking about key insights and interesting topics to help you learn how to powerfully co-create with the universe. I will cover everything from turning your setbacks into triumphs, and my favorite, living your soul's purpose. Of course, I'll be connecting you with spirit, your guides, and the favorite one, of course, is your loved ones on the other side. If you're ready to truly stop spinning circles, and you're ready to harness the power to co-create an authentic life with spirit, then I hope you join me every week for Spirited Straight Talk. Hey, we're back. It's Dana and Deb.
Hi.
Sorry if you've missed us. We've missed you guys too.
Took a short hiatus for the summer, just a couple of weeks.
We needed to get some things done, so even though this is a priority, we like doing it, it was one that we could wiggle around a little bit, right? So the topic today is one that it's close to my heart because I know that there's times in my life that I've gone through some really hard times, and you feel really alone. And doing this work over the years, I have come to know that we're not alone. It's important for people to know, especially when they feel like the world is against them and they don't have any support and they feel like they're being judged or abandoned. And I know for me, when I started on this path, I had a great support system. And I've been blessed to be able to work with those that we can't see, those supporters that we can't see.
Yeah, we have a team on the other side, basically,
Spiritual
a team
beings
within the universe.
Yeah.
That are dedicated towards helping us.
And when we first try to put our head around it, it can be a little bit complicated, but all religions and all faiths over the years always believed that there was more than just the human species helping us out.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you believe it or not, people have actually leaned on those belief systems to help them through, challenging times.
Mm-hmm.
And also find the gratitude when they're helped. So I know when I first started doing this work, I had to go into really understanding who was there and what was important. And what I share today in my belief system, I want people to know that it's my interpretation. It doesn't have to be yours. If you believe differently or you have a different name for things, use what works for you. I don't think any of us in my profession are 100% right. We're not supposed to be.
Just like when we refer to universe or God or source or angels or divine spirit, whatever you call it, it is the same thing. Right?
Absolutely. And so it's learning these things, giving you my interpretation, and then taking what you like. And like all of our podcasts, all my teaching, all my readings, I say the same thing, that I have a perspective, but use what works for you most of all. So the same thing like this.
What
resonates, as we say, yeah. The one thing I'm not in agreement with a lot of people thinking a loved one is their relative, is their guides. And I do believe your loved ones come around and can give you that little nudge or that feeling, absolutely. But they're not here to intertwine or influence your free will.
Well, when you talk about that, and I think this probably rings true for a lot of people, when you talk about that, I always go to, I don't know if my loved ones that have crossed over are really ascended enough or enlightened enough to give me advice.
Right.
Even, if they left Earth and they were at the place where they left Earth, I don't know if they can,
They do change when they cross over. So the things they believed or the things they did, they are different. But I believe that we come here to learn, and there are souls that are much more advanced. What I sense is that before we incarnate here, and if you don't really believe in reincarnation, take that out of the talk here today, but whatever, again, works with you, whether it's one lifetime or multiple lifetimes. But I believe we come down here to learn to the earth plane, and we work through who we want to learn with our soul groups and what our intention is. But then we also have our teachers and our guides to help us to stay on track as much as possible or know that we're not alone. And so those souls that are highly evolved will then help guide us at the times that, we're asking for it. Mm-hmm. And they can't intervene. They can't take away our free will. They're just there to kind of give us that other nudge about what's happening and put things in front of us.
That's what I was going to say. Do you think they put things in our path to recognize them? Or I think a lot of people ignore those things.
I do.
But
I do this for a living.
That's true.
I do this for a living. I'm like, yeah, I hear you. I'm not ready to go there. I'm not ready to do it. So you don't have to do it. You don't get to fail. They're there to give you multiple opportunities to see something. I will give you a couple stories about this, but they're actually there to help you. And there are different levels of the afterlife of souls and angels and ascended masters that are able to help us. And I remember one time this woman told me, I have 10 guides, spirit guides. I go, oh, you must be a lot of work. So, we have this idea of how many guides we need and things like that. And for me, some people feel that they're in this profession that they've had one guide throughout their entire lifetime. And for me, I feel like I've had multiple teachers or guides through the process. I look at being in school, and so you have different, teachers of levels that are working with you. And as you work through your things, you get a higher level of a master or someone like that has more information to help give you what you need.
So as you build your skill set,
right,
at working with the other side, you have different guides that come work with you.
That's what I have experienced, but I also don't believe that, everyone has to believe that.
Right.
And as we talked about, all religions have their saints, their spiritual helpers, those that, that even believe in Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad. All of those souls can be very similar, whatever you believe in, that is that master or ascended master to guide us or to help us.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times
like Archangel Michael, all
absolutely,
those,
yeah. And so our souls are here to, learn to get through our fear, learn to be to have an authentic life, and also to really learn unconditional love, to really understand that. And those are the things that we're all working on in order to ascend. And these spirit guides in the other realm have done that.
So when you talk about unconditional love, and that's like the ultimate thing we're here to learn,
right? And it's one of the hardest things. I know that's been a big lesson for me. So people think unconditional love is loving someone no matter what, and I've had some people say, oh, it's like a dog, which is really true. Mm-hmm. Dogs are really unconditional for sure. But what I believe is that it's learning to be authentic to our soul and receive love the only way they can give it. And what happens is if we don't feel that love and support that we believe that we need, we get angry or upset. We feel abandoned, and then we change who we are for people to like us. So that becomes a conditional love versus an unconditional love. So in my perspective is when I am judged and abandoned, my life lesson is to not change who I am and realize that's all they're capable of. They're only capable of judging me and abandoning me. They can't change or don't have a desire to change.
Which has recently happened.
Yes. So that big lesson is we feel that if other people love us, we must be doing the right thing. And so we get into this turmoil of the rejection of I'm not good enough, so I have to do these other things to be able to receive love. And really, it's like finding your own path.
So, and I know this is, maybe you're going to address this, but so these patterns repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. Is it because we ignore them, or is it because they're really trying to hammer it home?
I feel like for me, it's always learning to the next level. Like I compare it to math. You learn to write your numbers, you learn addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, algebra. Numbers go on for infinity.
Trigonometry, which I will never understand.
I don't even understand addition. So it's taking that next level of understanding of what we're here to learn. And so we keep getting bigger teachers and bigger opportunities to learn that lesson. And to me, that's helping us move forward to enlightenment. It's just difficult because it's an earth journey. And
so enlightenment, does that mean we then become guides? Mm-hmm. So once we reach that real true understanding, then we ascend.
Correct.
And don't have to come back here to keep repeating
those lessons.
The same thing over and over.
And people go, well, I don't want to come back here. I'm like, it's about learning. And you don't have to. I think there's ways to learn on the other side. I always call it, there's another school system. We don't stop learning. So even those that are ascended continue on that progression of learning more. And that's because we're all seekers. Humans want to know more. We want to know knowledge.
Souls want to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a soul, we continue to grow. We just get intertwined in our own drama or life experiences, and sometimes can't step back and look and go, oh, this is my pattern, and this is what I'm learning, and how do I change the way it looks? So that's the goal. But we're not doing it alone. So let's say you've had support systems through your life, but those support systems no longer resonate or work for you. Always know that the spiritual realm, the universe, however you want to say it, you still have them there helping you and opening doors and opportunities, whether it's a song, whether it's someone says something, a movie, that aha that we get to
animal spirit guides,
all those things are there to give you attention. And I know when I teach, it's slowing us down, pay attention, see what the signs are, because most of us are just rushing through life and we can't hear, even though you may be begging, praying, pleading, whatever. But if you can't stop and listen, you can't hear them or feel them or understand them. And most of us are in our past, or we're worried about our future instead of being present. And that's how our guides communicate with us, is when we're present.
Okay.
And you had a visit last night.
I did. It was yesterday. And it was really cool. This is the first time I've experienced it this way. I do feel that my guides communicate with me all the time. I may not say, oh, my guides told me this, but I might say, this is what I'm getting, or this is what I got, or this is how we should do this. Mm-hmm. And maybe I should give them more credit.
You should.
I should.
Be grateful. And Dana gets her information, because you're a marketing guru.
I get it. Well, I don't feel that way. But
basically, you get that information. That's not for me. That's my guides are going to be working differently. So if you're an engineer, mm-hmm. or you're a farmer or a teacher, you're going to get your guides differently because you're doing different work.
And I think for me, I just have a clear sense of knowing, mm-hmm. and I get this very strong, this is the way we should do it. And it's not necessarily, I don't feel it's coming from my brain, because it may not be something that I'm even ever not on your radar, delved into or on my radar, but I'll get a very strong sense of, I just know that this is the way it's going to work. And so yesterday, I think I was in that twilight state, mm-hmm. And I might have just been falling asleep, but all of a sudden I felt a presence, and the presence it almost melded into my, I could see them coming towards me in my third eye maybe or something, and it almost melded into my own face. But I don't know how to describe that. It was almost
very close.
Yeah, very close, and I could sense them and see an image. And it was the image of a female, and it felt angelic. When you said angelic, because you tapped into what I was describing.
So what I can do, if you are feeling your guides, I can tap into that dream or that experience to help you identify it. And when you were telling me, I go, oh, it's angelic-like. So it was a higher vibration.
Yeah, she was angelic-like, yeah. But I wasn't dreaming, because it wasn't I wasn't having a dream.
Right. That in-between state.
I was in that in-between state, so I was just falling asleep, but what came over me was just a sense of peace.
That's what it would be like.
And so it was just this sense of peace and comfort, and that's all it was. And then it went away. So it was just a quick...
Maybe it was a birthday present. Dana just had her birthday about a week ago.
The big 5-0. Yeah. But yeah, it was just a really calm sense of peace, but almost like calming me. Mm-hmm. So it was just and I wasn't in need of knowing that everything was or everything is okay, or there's nothing chaotic going on right now. But it was just a sense of peace. When you can
connect with it when you're at the peaceful place, it's easier to connect more on, because it wasn't like you were calling for it. You just felt it. You're like, oh, they're here. And that's really what people experience. Like, I'm not alone. And
it was very cool.
Yeah, it was
very, very cool. It was just a calming,
yeah.
That feels
I'm just
good.
getting the hit. I could tell people, okay, they're not staring at you all the time. So if you're going to the bathroom or showering, they're not staring at you, okay? Even though they can come through during that time, they're not attached. Well, are they watching me all the time? It's kind of like Santa Claus, right?
Well, I would assume that you shouldn't be bothered by the other side looking at you anyway.
Right, that's right. They're not in the interest of you anyway. I have a couple stories of how this started for me. And I was at my late 30s when I started really getting into this type of life.
Your first guide?
My first guide.
Okay.
My first spirit guide. When I first started getting into this in my late 30s. And I started writing. I did automatic writing, and I'm writing down what I'm getting, and I'm seeing in my third eye and what I'm writing, a Native American young woman. And I could see her having one feather in her hair. And she kept telling me her name was Rain, and not the kind that's Rain, like the rain. It was more like the rain on the horses. So I could feel her it felt like it was a word of, I'm guiding you, I'm leading you to where you need to go.
Okay.
And as we all do when we first start on this path, is I'm like, okay, I want you to prove to me this is really what I'm getting.
Because were you doubting
that
it was what you were getting? Okay.
I don't do that anymore, but I did then. I'm like, okay, I need you to prove it to me that this is really you.
This is really you.
And so I walk into sort of like a metaphysical store, not exactly, but sort of like that. And right there in the front is a huge card of a Native American woman that looked identical to the one I saw in my third eye. And I was like, okay, that's one. And I'm sure she's thinking like, okay, how many more? And then I got this paper in the newspaper in the mail that shouldn't have come to me. It was another city, and it talked about all the Native Americans in that area. And then I can't remember all of them because it's been,
So there were several signs.
Yeah. Someone else saw it, says, I think you have a Native American. I'm like, okay. And I had such a kindred energy with her, like how you felt in the, the Twilight Zone. And I started doing all my automatic writing then, and that's how I got a lot of information about what I teach today. And then one day I didn't feel her around, her presence. And I basically started grieving her, like, where did you go? Do I not have support anymore? And do I feel alone? And I felt another presence. It was more masculine. And he said to me, you're going to have multiple guides throughout your life. It's for you to trust this. And part of that helped me too, because when I work with other people, I'm working with your guides. So I had to learn to shift that energy.
Because you're connected to your own guides, but you connect to your clients' guides when you are channeling for them.
Right. So I had to learn that there are multiple energies out there, and how do I tap into them? And they all communicate a little differently. And then I just started trusting, like, okay, just show up. I don't have to identify who you are. I appreciate them. I'm grateful for them. And I tell them that, help me with this. And they do. And like we said earlier, I don't always listen to when I'm getting guidance. But I will tell you a really cool story when I didn't really understand talking to my guides. But I learned through some of the experiences that I had this medium ability. And I didn't know what to do with it. And we didn't have a lot of money at the time, but I heard John Edward was in town. And I said, I need to get tickets to go see him. I didn't know why. Didn't have the money. They were very expensive. I wasn't expecting a reading. I just knew that it was important that I go there and be in that crowd. So after a couple hours, I was like, why am I here? I didn't get a message. I don't understand what's happening. I'm here though. But the one thing I noticed was there was a lot of people there, probably 400 or 500 people that wanted to hear a message from their loved one. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute. I need to be able to step into this because maybe I can help somebody. But it wasn't still like
solidified.
Yeah, it was just like, okay, I see a lot of pain, and he's helping people.
So you have this ability, and it came naturally.
Very naturally.
It was like a light switch turned on for you, and everything started coming through. And you really were just...
I didn't even know there was mediums. I didn't even know what a medium was.
But you were just trying to learn, like, okay, well, I have this. What do I do with it now?
Yeah. And it turned on like a light switch. It wasn't shutting off at the time. So I was there with my now late husband, but we got into the car and a radio station was on, Cozy 101. And they had a medium on. It was Roshki with Sid the Psychic. And what I learned about a year later is he had gone in the car at halftime and turned it onto a Rockies game. So it was on an AM station. I get in the car and it's on the FM station. I don't listen to the radio at night. I didn't know who Roshki was or anything like that. And I called the radio station. I was not doing this as a profession. And I just said, hey, I was there. And the producer said, or the manager said, I was supposed to be there. I know it's very popular. I've helped other people. through several events, after 9/11, I got on the radio and I did 52 readings on off the air and changed my life. So if I wouldn't have listened and gotten the tickets and made the excuses, if I wouldn't have, followed through with what I was feeling without understanding why.
That clear knowing,
yeah. And it probably still would have happened, but would have taken longer, would have been harder. What would have been the caveat to change that?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it works when those doors are open, when you walk through those opportunities. Even though you're like, I can't do this, or it's not going to work, it doesn't make any sense. It was walking through those steps, trusting that process.
Mm-hmm.
And
your guides guided you.
Yeah, through the whole thing, and it just worked out. And I think the other thing is learning when you don't pay attention. And I always believe working with your guides to begin with simpler things. So I've told the story hundreds of times, but my parents were in town and I needed to go to the grocery store to get some food. And I wanted a glass of wine, of course, right?
Of
so
course.
I had to go to the grocery store first. And I had like 4 or 5
Spirits
items.
and
spirits. I had to go to the grocery store. And so I go there and I'm getting my 3 or 4 items, and I could hear the guys go get the breadcrumbs. And we all have that aha, like, turn off the iron. Did you check this? We've all had that, and we don't always listen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kept arguing, I have the breadcrumbs. I don't need breadcrumbs. And I'm arguing, even at the checkout. And I get home and I pour my glass of wine and I'm, trying to cook, and I open up the cabinet and guess what? There's the breadcrumbs. And I'm like, na, 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 na. And I opened it up and it was full of worms. And I could hear my guides go, na, 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 na. So it's those simple things that we start learning to trust. So like when you're told to go, I know we all have GPS and stuff, but if you have this gut feeling about what you can do, or the phone call you should make, or
what direction
or whatever, or you have to go do this here, and listen to those things, because that's going to build your trust with your guides, because they want it to be easy for you.
I remember, speaking of like what direction to drive, we were driving to the radio station one morning, you and I, trying to get you to a radio show you were on, and I was guided to drive a different way. And I didn't know why. I'm like, well, we're driving this way.
Right.
And it was completely different, longer way than we normally go. But not even 5 minutes later, there was a wreck. And we would have probably been right there.
Either in it or around it. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So those kinds of things probably happen to everyone. We just don't attribute it to, that's our guides.
Right.
That's
well, I can't
trust.
hear them. I'm laughing like, if they yelled at you, it'd freak you out. And sometimes we do feel that loud voice or hear our name, and it is to get our attention. But most of us are so busy that we don't even listen to the people we're with. I find that when we talk to somebody, we're immediately trying to respond. We're not even addressing like, oh yeah, that was a good thing that you did.
We should do a podcast on listening. How to be the most effective listener.
If you don't listen to the people you're around and take pause, and you're trying to fill up the space of communicating, and you can't wait till you have a moment when they pause, you're not going to hear your guides. Because you have to, and that's meditation. Meditation is being present. So if you don't sit in a quiet room, that's fine. But if you can't just sit and listen to somebody and hear their thoughts and even repeat what they say, it's going to be really hard to hear your guides.
Repeating what somebody says when you're talking to them is so important. You learn that in sales.
It's really important.
It's really important.
That means you've been heard.
Yeah.
And there's so many times where people are already wanting to respond to what you said, to compare.
Yeah. I had a sales manager one time and I was always just kind of a natural at listening and being able to hold that conversation without wanting to jump in. But she would jump in every opportunity she had to sell. And that's how I view it, is like, you need to listen first before you know how to respond, or before you know what somebody needs. You have to hear them.
Right.
And I always found that really difficult.
It is. I almost forget.
You can ride with me, but you can't talk.
Well, it becomes like you feel that energy, and it's like the fingers on there, the fingernails on the chalkboard. And people always ask too, like, what can I ask? You can ask anything, but I think the biggest key is being open to what shows up. When I started on this path, my whole intention of feng shui and doing all this was for my husband to get back into his VP career. And that's not what happened. And the universe said, there's another door. That door is closed. It continues to close. Where are you going to take this? So we don't want to cause bad pain to someone that's hurt us. We don't want any karma kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's really what's the highest good for ourselves. And sometimes what we think is really great for us isn't the path that you are here to learn or isn't the best opportunity. And I think people...
And look at how many people you have helped over the course of 20 years.
Yeah.
Over 50,000 people have seen you.
At least.
Yeah.
And I think it's also that sometimes, your guides are not the helicopter parents. They're not over you making sure everything's fine. There's all that free will. But I think the biggest thing is, are you open to other doors opening that you didn't expect? Are you open to things turning out a different way because you believe that was the best way and only way to do it? And I think we get limiting beliefs when we do that. And that's what we talk about in our classes is we create these limiting beliefs that if I just had this, or if it just looked like this,
or if it showed up this way,
then
I would really know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's letting the universe say, you know what, you signed this idea. We see this bigger picture for you. It might be a little scary, but wow. It's even meeting you and opening up my thoughts about being with a female relationship. And the universe says, well, everything you said on your list that you asked for is here. I just didn't put a him or her, but I let the universe bring you. And it was just like, well, I can't argue. Do I go for it or not? Do I do the same thing I've been doing that hasn't worked? And if you haven't heard that story, it's in our Manifest podcast, but it's letting the universe what you desire, but then almost like I wrote that it was already here.
As if, yeah.
But then being open to how it's handled, how it shows up. So that's the key.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to control. We think we know what's best, and these enlightened beings know a lot more than you.
Right.
So yeah, that's
it is hard not to want to control it.
Absolutely. So there's no correct way to ask. If you have a faith that you follow, you can do it that way, or you ask somebody, what do you do? Or to me, it's just being present and writing it down, or being grateful, or imagining it. That's why we do vision boards and things like that, for us to sort of get those ideas and then ask them to help us. And then,
so we should talk about ascended masters and archangels.
So before we started doing this, I was just kind of writing my notes down, and I opened up a book called Archangels and Ascended Masters. And what I opened up to was,
I thought this was fascinating.
So remember her name is Dana, and guess what we opened up to?
So I'm Dana, and when you opened the book, the page opened up to an ascended master by the name of Dana, which who even knew that was a thing?
I guess someone did.
Yeah.
See, maybe you're just an ascended master here to help me on an earthly level. Maybe come down here to Earth to get me in shape.
Well, I if that's the case, I chose a really hard path. Wow.
Not with me, with other things.
Yeah, but what's cool, and I am mostly Irish. My bloodline is mostly Irish and Spanish.
Right.
I have a lot of Iberian blood, which is Spaniard, Portuguese. So I have that, but I'm mostly Irish. So believe it or not, my grandfather was 100% Irish. And so...
And you had some conquistadors.
Yeah, conquistadors and on my grandpa's side. Yeah. But this is based in Ireland. This ascended master is a Celtic deity. So I thought that was really cool. And a female, which isn't typical.
There aren't a lot of, because it's the yin and yang.
In the Celtic.
In the
Celtic belief system,
more rare.
She was wearing a king's crown. And so I thought that was very cool. So she helps with abundance, alchemy and divine magic, animals and healing, children and fertility and mothering, elemental kingdom meeting and working with, I guess, it says leprechauns here, but that's just their belief system.
Yeah, fairy spirits,
but also spirits, worthiness, self-esteem, and deservingness issues.
And fertility doesn't have to be it could be abundance in some way, like getting things to be abundant. Yeah, that's what you do.
I do that?
Yeah. So you guys just call Dana at her number and ask her for these things.
Bing, I'll wave my magic wand.
Yes.
So the way to bring her into your life is wear, look at, or hold something that makes you feel abundant, or even better, makes you feel like royalty. This could mean going to a jewelry store, trying on a beautiful ring, looking at a photograph of an opulent estate. Imagine yourself with unlimited resources, feel a sense of total financial security. Even if you can imagine and experience this sensation just for a brief time, that's enough, it says. So mentally say, thank you for lending me your magical abilities, which I now use in the service of fun, joy, and support of my divine mission. Thank you for your generosity in showing me how to accept these resources and how to enjoy them. Thank you for helping me receive without guilt and to know that I deserve this attention and support, and that it will ultimately allow me to help the planet. That's kind of cool.
It is. So it's giving us, who you can call. It's like the yellow pages, which we don't have yellow pages anymore.
Call upon the archangels.
Yeah. You can call upon them. They're there. They're just waiting. They won't intervene because that's a boundary.
Oh, you should tell the story about Archangel Michael.
At the class the one time?
Yeah.
So I was having this class, this is several years ago, and people are laying on the floor, and there's one or two people with each person, and we're doing energy work. And I do Reiki, but I didn't do Reiki. I just taught them to bring in the energy and the love. And before, we brought in Archangel Michael as a ascended master for this group. And as we were doing this, the room started getting warmer and warmer and warmer. And all of a sudden, a light flashed through the room, and it almost sounded like lightning. And everyone stopped and looked and go, what was that? And people could see the lightning. And when you read upon his energy, that's what happens.
Wow.
So he came into the room.
That gave me chills.
Yeah, he came into the room, and it was like, even for me doing this work for these years, I was like, wow. So it is really powerful. Amazing. Yeah. And that's why they're all energy. Energy doesn't die. So they bring their energy in. Just like when people ask for prayers, it's all about the energy of asking. And the intention. So whatever, if you are not a person that prays, there's so many other things. I do more of intention, journaling, creating those things to manifest. So there's lots of different ways. And they will...
Some people pray or call it prayer. It's all the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's all intention. Yeah.
So it's intention. So those are some fun stories, and we have a lot more. But some things to help everyone get there, which I think is always important, is really be present when you go here and breathe. And when we're going through those rough times, there's a feeling of panic and unknown. And I remember being there, and still at times. And it's being in that calm state, like when the angel came to see you.
Yeah, that was so cool.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And if you can't get there, remember a time that you were by the lake or by the ocean, or you were holding that baby or that puppy that gave you that peace. Mm-hmm. And you want to go back to that time, whether there's a smell or a song and things like that, so that you can be, really open and look at the situation different. Going outdoors, doing yoga, opening up your heart, and all those things are going to be another tool. Don't be attached who you need to ask for help. Or this is a better one. A lot of times people want to help somebody, but make sure you have their permission. Mm-hmm. Because we always say stay in your lane. So unless someone can't ask for it, but if someone is really having a hard time and it's a family or a friend, ask them if you can ask for help for them. Because they do have the right to know what you're doing too. Mm-hmm. So
the fourth one is
give time to revisit and make sure that your request is clear. I think a lot of people say one thing or they panic, and it's really being clear about what it is. And again, I can't repeat this enough.
To write it out,
think about it, say it to a friend, record it, listen to it. Is that really what I'm looking for? And I'm really good at, when someone asks for something, to say, wait a minute, is this surely what you're, not surely, really what you're looking for? Yeah.
So clarify it. Mm-hmm. Be very specific, mm-hmm. right?
And then be open to how it shows up. Trust is a really difficult one. There is support on the beyond, but there's also a timing. But I always say, if you are pregnant, you don't want that baby earlier than the full term. So sometimes we want things to happen earlier because that helps us, but sometimes the timing is really important about when it's time to show up. So be patient with that too. 6, listen and watch, pay attention to the signs. What happens is that, again, we get so busy, we're in that spot. Listen, pay attention, take deep breaths. We have watches that tell us to breathe. Do that every hour. Just sit down and go, I need to breathe. I want to just be focused. I want to be present, because you're going to miss the signs. Otherwise, you're just racing by everything and not hearing what your guides are trying to tell you.
So if you're listening or watching, or you slow yourself down for a minute, what would you say? Like, should they focus on feeling grateful just for a minute, just slow down? Or should they focus on just, I'm here, I'm present, or
whatever's
what is
comfortable.
the best intention to set during that just minute of calm?
You know me, I don't have any specific guidelines. What I say is what works for you at that moment. So if you're in the car and you're driving and you are thinking about the situation, it may be putting on some great music and taking some deep breaths and saying, I'm trusting this process. I am open to what's happening. I know that you're there to support me.
So maybe saying an affirmation.
100%.
A be present affirmation. Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here to help clarify all this stuff.
You know what I would love?
What?
I think one of the coolest things that I ever owned was these little affirmation cards. And I don't know where they're at right now, but that would be something that I think people would love for you to create.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
It makes it easy.
Yeah. And that's why I think people want it easy, especially at that moment of the crisis.
Right.
7, 99% of the time, you just don't hear it in your head. You're led to the answer. So if you're not hearing something and you're having a question, I know this happens to me. I'm with somebody, I'm drawn to somebody, and I have something going on and I'm not getting the clarity. The person I talk to either has a similar story, or they have the same experience, or they've seen it happen, and they will say something to me that is very, very clear. And so what we want to do is look at opportunities that we can take, because you may not hear it in your mind, or you hear it and you're not going to trust it. Like the breadcrumb story. I ignored it. Like, I get paid to listen to my guides, and I ignored the breadcrumb story. 8, manifest it over and over. Write about it, think about it, say it out loud, open your heart to the possibilities. I think I want to end on that, but just to go back a little bit, you want to make sure that you're not causing pain to somebody else for your happiness. You don't want someone to suffer, and even if they have been horrible and difficult, we're not asking you to forgive them. We're just saying they all have their own journeys and their own paths. And to
make it frustrated and say, oh,
absolutely.
But really, I really like the opening your heart to your own possibilities.
And they're not hitmen.
Your guides. Oh, jeez.
They're not attorneys. They're not, but they're there for so many different reasons and all different causes. They have all these different talents to help you.
Love and light.
Love and light. And so if you've had this happen to you, know that it's just not a 1-time or 10-time thing. The more that you continue to practice this, it's going to be easier and easier, and it will become your natural ability to connect with those that are more enlightened than us.
That's awesome.
It is.
Cool.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us once again on Spirited Straight Talk.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. Each Monday is a new episode of Spirited Straight Talk. Make sure you hit follow so you don't miss any of the guidance or bonus episodes. Your experience at the show means a lot to us, and we would love for you to leave a review or let us know about more topics you would like Deb to explore. You can also follow Deb on social media and connect with her website at debshepherd.com. That's DEBSHEPPARD.com. If you want to join Deb on one of the shows or have a reading from her on the show, you can submit a request on the podcast page of her website. Thank you again, and see you next week.